Well, hello and welcome to Hot Tea with Holly. I am Holly and I am having a hot cup of tea. Imagine that. Happy Tuesday. If you're here with me live, please say hello. And if you're watching this in playback, either on YouTube or my blog, how's it going? Come on over to hollyperkins.com and you can sign up to receive several different free downloads that I have. So if you just come over to my website and on the homepage, you'll see an opportunity to download a free 6-week workout program or my 101 guide to nutrition. So welcome. How are you today? I'm super excited about this conversation. But first, if you're with me, are you having a hot beverage, a cold beverage, a glass of water, a carbonated beverage? What are you having? So I have been mm, hooked lately on my newest obsession. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Harney and Sons Yuzu Sencha, which I'm very, very excited about. Some of you have heard me talk about it before, but I am a huge fan of Japanese green teas and in specific sencha. I really love a loose leaf sencha tea. It's one of my absolute favorites. And recently I remembered that years ago I found a really incredible yuzu matcha from Republic of Tea, and they've since discontinued it. It's almost impossible to find. But I was doing a repeated search on it because every now and then I get out onto the interwebs and do a search on it. And I was looking for this yuzu matcha, which was my favorite. Couldn't find it. But lo and behold, I found out that my dear friends over at Harney and Sons have a yuzu sencha, which is so exciting. So if you like sencha, if you like Japanese green tea, if you love yuzu, you should definitely try it out. And no, this is not sponsored by Harney and Sons. They don't know where I am. This is just legitimately purchased with my own hard-earned dollars and just my favorite tea company, tea supplier at this point right now. So welcome. How are you? If you're here with me live, please say hello. Today we are talking about intermittent fasting. And I know we've touched upon this topic from time to time over the years. And yesterday I received an email that brought the topic up for me again. And there is so much information, misinformation out there about intermittent fasting. And there's some really good information out there. I know there's a high likelihood that you might be doing some form of intermittent fasting right now. And here's the deal, there's pros and cons to it. There's ins and outs. You could be doing it right, and it might be not really supporting you so much. So, today we're going to be talking about the ins and outs of intermittent fasting, what you need to know if this is something that could help you, if you're currently doing it to determine if it's helping you or not, or if it's something you should explore to improve. I guess just improve your performance really at the end of the day. That is the opportunity that intermittent fasting provides. And so we're going to be diving deep into it today. Grab a beverage, join me. If you're with me live, say hello. Mm. Heidi is having Japanese sencha as well. I imagine probably from Harney and Sons. The yuzu is really nice. It's like just a hint of yuzu. It's this bright yellow green color. I don't know if I'll be able to tip my camera enough for you to see it. Look at that. Can you see it? It's right on the edge. It's so good. Mm. Hi, Irene. How are you? Welcome, welcome. So let's jump in. Almost every single day, maybe not every day, I would say 4 times a week, I receive an email from someone in my community, someone new to my community, who makes a comment about intermittent fasting. And this week's comment was, I'm going to be going back to my routine of everyday intermittent fasting and dot, dot, dot. And when I probed this person further and asked, but is it working for you? It really caused her to pause and step back and be like, oh my gosh, I never really assessed if it's actually working for me or not. And what I'm finding with low carb eating and intermittent fasting is that you might be employing one of these strategies because you keep hearing that it's good. And so you think it's helping you, But is it really? You've got to stop and assess. And so I'm going to take you through a couple of questions today to see, is whatever your protocol you're following, is it actually working for you? Is it actually helping? Because here's the thing, if you're setting aside any bandwidth in your life or any time in your day to follow a certain protocol, it really should be bringing you benefits. And if it's not, let's let go of it. Open up that bandwidth in your life for something better to come in. Do you follow? Does this apply to you? If it does, give me a hell yes, Holly. And you don't have to swear if you don't want to, but give me a yeah, girl, or something like that. Because I know for myself, there were years I was kind of blindly doing this low carb thing. And it was not helping me at all. In fact, it was causing more problems than it was actually worth. And it wasn't until I took the time to really assess and be like, well, what's going on? What are my goals? What symptoms or issues am I struggling with? And how am I feeling every single day? And those are three big questions that I really encourage you to ask yourself today. What is your goal? Write it down. Right now, if you're with me and you have not yet achieved whatever it is that you want to achieve for yourself, whether it's getting leaner, improving your body composition, running faster, feeling better, being more regular, less bloating, whatever it may be, what is your goal? If your goal is just to be healthy, do you feel you're healthy? Do you feel you're as healthy as you could possibly be? It's a yes or no question, really, so that you can ultimately assess where are you and where do you want to go. So number one, what is your ultimate goal right now? And if you're willing, please share in the comments with me. If you're here with me live, I would love to know, what's your goal right now? Just pick one, because a lot of times people throw at me like 5 different goals. But right now, I want you to pick the number one most important goal. Put it in the chat box while I drink my hot tea. It's at that perfect temperature. Number one, what's your goal? Number two, are you following some strategy to get you to that goal? Yes or no? And if you are, do share. Because you might say, well, I'm trying to lose weight, and the strategy I'm following is working out really hard every day and following a low carb diet. That's the trend if you follow the media headlines. If you're new to my community, welcome to the wake up call, because I do not ascribe to this approach. If you're trying to lose weight and you're over the age of 37, hard workouts every single day and low carb eating generally isn't working. If it's working for you, do share, because I would love to learn more from you. But in my experience, which is now 30 years coaching women, when I probe, when I coach, when I ask questions, what I find is it's not really working for people. So is your strategy, number one, are you following a strategy, or are you just kind of haphazardly doing whatever your email inbox points you to on any given day? Are the headlines driving you in a certain direction? But is it working? Are you following a strategy, yes or no, that's specific to your goal? And the third question you want to ask yourself is, do you feel awesome? Do you feel great? Do you wake up every day excited to get out of bed, excited to work out, not bloated, feeling great? And throughout the day, are you struggling with any symptoms, any problematic symptoms that, even if they're not so problematic that they take you to your doctor's office, if they're things that just nag you and bother you. So for years, for me, I just didn't feel well. And it was sort of this murky, ambiguous, I just didn't feel well. And it didn't get to the point until I felt terrible that I started going to doctor after doctor after doctor, trying to get a diagnosis, which I never got, because it really was this sort of subclinical collection of symptoms where I just didn't feel well. And so for years, I was like, well, all the doctors are telling me that my blood pressure and my cholesterol and my lipid profile and, the way that I look, I'm the picture of health. I kept hearing that from everyone. You're the picture of health. There's nothing wrong with you. And yet I knew there was something wrong with me. I was having problematic, nagging, troubling symptoms that I didn't like, such as the list goes on and on and on, right? So if you have a goal, following a strategy, but you've got some symptoms that aren't working for you, you're always hungry, or you crash at 3 in the afternoon, or you can't get through the day without caffeine or sugar, or you're always craving sugar and you have a sugar addiction, or at the end of the day, you're so exhausted and you don't want to cook dinner for your family and you're just grumpy and you're not the incredible human that you're really designed to be. If you've got any complaints about the way you walk through life in this physical body, that's an indication that there's an opportunity to improve or up level your performance. And that's when I like to say, is your strategy actually working for you? And that's what we're going to be talking about today, specifically through the filter of intermittent fasting. Because I do believe that if you follow the right intermittent fasting protocol that works for your body and your lifestyle, I do believe that it can be very helpful. I have seen it be helpful at various times in my life and the lives of my clients. And you have to be very specific about it, because the let's call it most popular or purest form of intermittent fasting is the 16 by 8 protocol, which means you're fasting for 16 hours of every day and you're fitting all of your food into an 8-hour window. That's kind of the most popular or most mainstream intermittent fasting protocol. There's more advanced protocols where you don't eat for 3 or 4 or 5 days or 24 hours. And then there are the kind of bastardized versions of intermittent fasting that are 12 and 12, where you eat for 12 hours out of the day and you fast for 12 hours out of the day. Then there's all of those influencers out there who have kind of come up with their own silly versions that include coffee in the morning with collagen and coconut creamer. And then they don't eat until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they call that intermittent fasting. That's not intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is specifically when there are 0 calories in your body for a designated period of time. And so just because you're not hungry in the morning and you just want to drink your coffee and go work out on empty because you feel awesome until 10 a.m., that's not intermittent fasting. And the question I want you to ask yourself, if that's your protocol, is it coming back to bite you in the butt at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Because if you're getting up in the morning and you're having caffeine in any form and you're working out on empty and you're not eating for several hours, I can pretty much guarantee it's biting you in the butt. Now, I would say maybe 1 in 30 women that I coach, it actually can work for. Maybe 1 in 30. And that might even be a little bit of a stretch. From time to time, I do have clients where that works. And that tends to be the body and the personality of someone who's solid, who's stable, who doesn't have any health issues, definitely doesn't have any thyroid or autoimmune issues, who doesn't have any digestive issues. And it's a very rare woman that I find that can tolerate that. Men tend to tolerate it better. But in my experience, which is quite vast at this point, most women really cannot tolerate getting up in the morning, caffeinating, working out on empty, and then not eating until 10, 11 a.m. or later. And the fallout that you want to look for in this situation is, are you starving at dinner time? Are you crashing at 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock? Are you then getting a surge of energy at 10 or 11 o'clock at night? These are symptoms that your current approach might not be working for you. And this is what I see on a regular basis, is that people are following intermittent fasting protocols thinking that they're working, but not realizing the symptoms that bloom 8 hours later are probably related, but you don't associate them because they're so far away from the strategy and from when you took action. So, the questions you want to ask yourself, if you're just popping in live, please say hello. Are you having a hot beverage? A cold beverage? Are you hydrating? What are you having? It's a Japanese sencha day. Mm, I did start my day off with a double espresso. So now I'm being a good girl and following it up with a Japanese sencha. But if you're having a hot beverage, do share. I'll say hello in a moment. Welcome to Have Everybody. We're talking about intermittent fasting. And if you have any experience in it, please share. What strategy do you follow? Or if you're curious and you don't understand it, please leave a comment so that I can answer any questions that you might be having. So today we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting, but the first question you want to ask yourself is, what's your goal? Please share in the comments. What is your top goal right now? Are you following some strategy to achieve that goal? Yes or no? And do you have any symptoms, any fallout? Do you have any health issues that are bothering you at all, whether they seem related or not? Because we want to start to look and see if your symptoms are related to your nutrition. For example, you might think that your poor sleep is related to hormones, when it actually might be related to alcohol, caffeine abuse, and unstable blood sugar. It might not even really be your hormones. It might be that your hormones are out of balance and out of whack because of your other habits: alcohol, caffeine, and unstable blood sugar. So it's important to say, well, now that you mention it, my eyes itch at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or I'm always congested, or I have a headache when I go to bed, or when I wake up, I feel bloated in my tummy. Any symptom, even if it seems unrelated, I encourage you to write it down and call it out now, because intermittent fasting could be causing it, and intermittent fasting could be the remedy for it. That is right. I have a very neutral opinion of intermittent fasting. And if you know me well, you know that when someone asks me, "Hey, Holly, is intermittent fasting good?" my answer is always, it depends. Is kale good for you? It depends. Is a vegan lifestyle good for you? It depends. It always depends. It depends on what is your goal and what is your current health status. What do your symptoms demand in their remedy? And intermittent fasting is something that I do teach. It's a tool that I keep in my back pocket. It is something that I teach inside of my signature nutrition program, the Nutrition Project. It is something that I teach, but it's not something that all my clients follow because it's not right for everyone. So let's jump in and determine, does it work? Is it good? What are the pros and cons? Is it right for you? Because I'll tell you, it's not right for me. It's actually counterproductive for me. And I find in my clients who have higher levels of lean muscle mass, lower levels of body fat, who work out moderate to aggressively, who are serious about their workouts, and who really live an active lifestyle, I find that intermittent fasting can be counterproductive because if you're someone who has a faster metabolism, intermittent fasting can be problematic. The whole benefit, the whole premise of intermittent fasting is that it's putting your body into a state of starvation. That's the whole premise. We are putting you into a state of starvation by restricting calories so that your body is forced into something called autophagy. Autophagy is a state where there is no sustenance, there's no fuel, there's no food, and your body is forced to turn into a state of breakdown, which is called autophagy. In essence, your body is catabolizing itself. It's cannibalizing itself and it's breaking down anything it can find for survival. And this includes body fat, sure, but it also includes muscle mass, which we don't want you to be breaking down, right? Autophagy is the state where your body is catabolizing and breaking down and destroying a variety of substances and cells and broken mitochondria in your system in an effort to seek survival and in an effort to detoxify your body. So it does detoxify the body on some level, but do you need this kind of detoxification? That's what we have to figure out. So the whole premise of intermittent fasting is starvation. And it's important to remember that because a lot of people think that intermittent fasting is this magical fairyland that optimizes your body. But really, at the end of the day, it's starvation, it's cannibalizing your body. And so, if you're someone who already battles catabolism, if you're someone who is already a hard gainer, if you're someone who you tend to feel tired a lot, if you've got thyroid issues, autoimmune issues, if you have a hard time building muscle, do you really want to be in a starvation state? No, you want to be in an anabolic state. We want to be putting you into a state where your body thrives, not where it's breaking down on itself. And so you really want to be educated on what is intermittent fasting and what is happening in your body. Welcome. Hello. If you're here, we're talking about intermittent fasting and the pros and cons of it, the ins and outs of it. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about, does intermittent fasting work? Is it helpful? When it's problematic? And does it cause weight loss? Because what I find is that a lot of people are using it for weight loss. There's two reasons to use intermittent fasting. One, supposedly for weight loss. The jury is still out on that use of intermittent fasting. The other reason for using intermittent fasting is performance, reducing physical ailments, improving digestion, and clearing up some potential health issues or nagging health issues that you may have. Intermittent fasting can be great for performance if you are experiencing unstable blood sugar or if your body is struggling with processing and metabolizing carbohydrates, if you've got reactive hypoglycemia, if you've got some autoimmune issues, depending on the autoimmune issue that you have, intermittent fasting can be helpful to optimize performance. So it really depends on what you're using it for. I will say, I generally don't use intermittent fasting for weight loss. So, does intermittent fasting work? The biggest question is, what does it work mean for you? What are you using it for? And if you're someone who is either using intermittent fasting right now or you've been intrigued by it, please share in the comments now why you're using it, why you're interested in it. And you might say, well, because I heard it's good. Well, what's it good for? You heard it's good for what? And the answer I often get is, well, I don't know. I just heard it's good. It's good for what? So if your goal is weight loss, we have to filter that question through, is intermittent fasting good for weight loss? Right? Now, if your question is, well, I heard it's good for brain acuity, different conversation. I heard it's good for mental performance. I heard it's good for improving digestion, different conversation. So the biggest question is, does intermittent fasting work? And my answer to that is, it depends. Could it work for weight loss? Yes. Let's jump into that. The research, um, the research is showing, the majority of research is showing that intermittent fasting doesn't do much for weight loss unless you are following what's called early time restricted feeding. Harvard did a huge, sorry, I'm getting the eye twitch, you guys. Those of you that know me, I get this eye twitch when I don't have my camera set up right. It drives me batty. My camera and my glasses aren't right. Here we are. So if you can see it, please excuse my twitching eye. And if you see me playing with my eye, that's why. Harvard did a huge meta-analysis on all of the research out there regarding using intermittent fasting for weight loss. And what they found is most intermittent fasting protocols don't actually produce better results for weight loss as compared to general calorie restriction. I'm going to say that again. When we do a double blind test, we take the same group and we give them intermittent fasting and we give them calorie restriction. There is no benefit to intermittent fasting when compared to calorie restriction, a calorie deficit. I know calorie restriction gets a bad rap, but really all we're talking about is an energy deficit. You're burning more than you're taking in. Intermittent fasting is not any better at producing weight loss than an energy deficit. And that's why I teach getting clear on your energy needs and what you're bringing in and putting out each day. And if you want to get hung up on calling that calorie counting, you can. But guess what, my friend? That's just giving it a bad rap, because the truth is you've got to get clear on your energy requirements if you want to reach your goals. And it's really just an objective awareness of, do you need more energy or do you need to expend more energy? What Harvard showed through their meta-analysis is the only form of intermittent fasting that might show promise for weight loss is early time restricted feeding. And what that means is you get up in the morning and you feed yourself for the first window of the day. That's the opposite of the bastardized versions of intermittent fasting that are out there. The kind of idea of, I get up and I'm not hungry, so I just drink some coffee with some collagen and some coconut creamer and I work out and I wait until I'm hungry at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and then I eat. That's a bastardized version of intermittent fasting. That's actually not what's intended. And that doesn't lead to weight loss. The opposite is what might lead to weight loss. So if you're interested in using intermittent fasting specifically for weight loss, the research shows that your best bet, and it's not a guarantee, your best bet is that you want to do an early time restricted feeding. You get up, You eat your first meal within an hour of the day before exercise or before you start your work day. You stabilize your blood sugar at the start of the day. You eat for a number of hours. You eat for a window. And then you end your eating window middle of the day, early evening, and you fast overnight. Guess what? That is how human is designed to operate. We are designed to eat during the daylight hours. Circadian rhythms support that. The opposite goes against your innate operating system. So, does intermittent fasting work? If you're wanting to use it for weight loss, I so encourage you to really follow this early hours form of feeding. Now, if you want to follow the 16/8 protocol, the way you'll need to do it is get up in the morning, eat immediately within the first hour of waking. I don't care if you're hungry or not. You've got to stabilize your blood sugar. Listen up, get your notebook. If you're waking up in the morning and you're not hungry, it's because your liver is congested. Okay? It doesn't mean you should wait till you're hungry. I don't believe in that approach. Because if you wait until you're hungry to eat, your blood sugar is so bottomed out. Your body has gotten into such an alert state of need that it's sending out the hunger signals. And that's too late. Research has shown that if you eat when you're hungry, you're gonna eat more than you need. So, if you're waking up in the morning and you're not hungry, and that's why you're like, I'm going to do intermittent fasting because I'm not hungry, it's more so because your liver is congested, and intermittent fasting can help that. But I so encourage the approach that I'm teaching now. You get up, you eat immediately within an hour of waking, you feed yourself for 8 hours. So if you eat at 6 a.m., if your first meal of the day is at 6 a.m. and you work out at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., you would then feed yourself and you'll stop eating at 2 in the afternoon. Your last meal of the day will be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you've got to fast until 6 o'clock the next morning. That's a 16/8 protocol. It's rough. And I don't believe that it's for everyone. So I'll answer the question in a moment. Is it helpful? I'll answer the question in a moment. It might be helpful for you. Try it and see. For me, it's not. It's too catabolic. My dear friend Heidi, who's here, it's too catabolic for her. But there are other clients of mine that it can work. It can be very, very helpful. In my experience, the rule of thumb is the closer you are to your ideal body weight, the more problematic intermittent fasting is. So if you have a lot of weight to lose, let's say more than 20, 25 pounds, intermittent fasting with this protocol can work. But the 16/8 protocol is pretty harsh. And if it's too catabolic for you, what you can explore is the protocol that I actually use first with my clients and what I teach inside of the Nutrition Project, which is a 12/12 protocol. So you get up at 6 a.m. or whatever time you get up, you eat your first meal of the day within an hour, and then you eat for 12 hours of the day. You finish your last meal of the day 12 hours before your first meal the next day. So if you eat breakfast at 5:30 in the morning, you finish dinner by 5:30 at night. That's a 12-hour fast. And I have found that that's a mild and more gentle approach to intermittent fasting that actually works really well. That can work great for my clients who are not super advanced in their workouts or their performance. If you're pushing your workouts, if you're working hard, if you are crushing it in the gym, like my dear friend Lois, okay, You are definitely not going to want to follow a 16 by 8 protocol. You'll want to explore a 12 by 12. But even those of you who are within a few pounds of your ideal body weight, even a 12 by 12 might be too much. Because remember, if you're going into the gym and you are really working hard, especially if you're following one of my workouts or my approach to workouts, even a 12 by 12 can be too aggressive because your metabolism is so high. The higher your metabolism, the more problematic intermittent fasting is. So the question becomes, is intermittent fasting helpful? Now, if you are interested in using intermittent fasting to boost performance, it's the other side of the conversation. If you're interested in using intermittent fasting for performance, a 16 by 8 protocol is your best bet. So you're going to want to try it and see. And here is where you've got the option of following a 16 by 8 protocol where you don't eat until 2 in the afternoon. But it's got to be a pure 16 by 8 protocol. I'm going to repeat this. If your goal is to improve performance, mental acuity, stabilize your blood sugar, potentially address diabetes or syndrome X or insulin sensitivity issues, performance, then any 16 by 8 protocol can work. You can get up and not eat until 2 in the afternoon if you want, and then eat from 2 to 10. You can do that, but it has to be pure. During the 16 hours of the fast, you cannot have any calories. You can have water. You could have carbonated water. You could have black coffee. You could have pure tea with nothing in it, but you can't have any calories. So you can't have collagen. You can't have coconut creamer. You really should not have artificial sweeteners. It's water, herbal tea, black coffee, black tea, black plain green tea. No calories. Okay. And if you're doing it for performance, you could do whatever protocol you want. But again, in my experience, I find that early time restricted feeding works better because it stabilizes blood sugar and it makes you burn hot during your waking hours. And again, to go back to it, I really believe human was designed to eat during the daylight hours. I don't think you should be eating at 10 o'clock at night. Ask yourself, does it really make sense that you eat at 9 o'clock at night and then go to bed? That's a fast way to clog up your liver. Oh, by the way, during those nighttime hours, whenever that sun goes down and your circadian rhythms take over, your body is designed to go into a lower gear so that your liver can detoxify. So if you're eating later at night or during the darker hours and then going to bed within a couple of hours, your liver is not able to detoxify. And that's why you're waking up not hungry in the morning. So if you're not hungry in the morning, you're probably eating dinner too late, or you're eating any food too close to bedtime. So if you're not hungry in the morning, I encourage you to start with a 12 by 12 and see if that improves that hunger in the morning. Because listen, my friend, you should be hungry in the morning. And it might not present itself as hunger. Like for me, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not hungry, but I need food. So my hunger never presents as appetite. I have symptoms that tell me I need food, but because I've gotten because of years of practicing what I preach, I don't have an appetite hardly ever. If I have an appetite or I'm hungry, that's because my diet's really off track. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not hungry, but I know my body needs fuel. And as soon as I eat, I turn on and I feel so much better. And that's what food does. It fuels the Ferrari so you can fire hot all day long. So I will always be a fan of early time restricted feeding where you get up and you eat first thing in the morning. So is intermittent fasting helpful? It definitely can be if you're doing it right for the right reasons. But if you're doing it to lose weight, you can't be doing it haphazardly. I'm also not a huge fan of doing it every single day. My approach is you do it 2 days in a row and that's it for a week, or you do it 2 days a week separated. And some people call this a 5 by 2 approach. So you do 5 days of normal eating, 2 days of intermittent fasting. And I tend to like that approach. Now, I have used this approach long before someone did a 5 by 2 or named it a 5 by 2. But you also don't have to do 2 days in a row. You could split up those 2 days per week and do like 3 days, one day, 2 day, one day, right? So is it helpful? Yes, if you are really deliberate in your protocol and you're following the right protocol for your goal. So again, it always comes back to what is your goal and is your strategy supporting it? So, when is intermittent fasting problematic? Here's when it's problematic. Number one, if you pretend to be intermittent fasting as an excuse to just not eat, that's when it gets problematic because you have to be doing it deliberately, following a protocol. So if you're doing it this way, Monday morning and I woke up, I just wasn't hungry. So I had my coffee and my collagen and my coconut creamer, and I didn't eat until 2. I'm going to call that intermittent fasting. That's not intermittent fasting. That's just lying to yourself because you don't feel like eating. That's really laziness, is what that is. That's, I want my coffee on an empty stomach, which, trust me, my friend, there is nothing better than coffee on an empty stomach. I love it. Give me my drug. It makes me high as the sky and it's fabulous and it bites me in the butt at 4 in the afternoon. So it's critical that you are following a protocol. And it's problematic if you're just half-assing it or you're using it as an excuse to be lazy because you don't feel like figuring out what to eat. And that's a real problem. I suffer it. I get lazy. You're tired. You don't feel like figuring out what to eat, so you don't. That's a problem. It's also problematic, and I'm going to come over and check for comments here because I see some of my friends are here. Welcome, all my friends. Please say hello. So glad you guys are here. I've missed you. I'm finally getting back on track and back on track, if you know what I mean. It's definitely been a very eventful past couple of months, and my life has been erratic, but I'm so happy to be back here and to be getting back on track and getting back into flow. So I'm so glad you guys are here. So I will be coming back over to answer questions in a moment, but I want to make sure that I stay with this thought process regarding intermittent fasting. And if you're popping in recently, hello, we're talking about intermittent fasting, the ins, the outs, the whens it works, the whens it doesn't, and what I've seen in my own personal practice of coaching people. And oh, by the way, I know this is going to sound like bragging, and maybe it is, but it's not. I have an unbelievable track record at getting women results. And the more I'm in practice, the more shocking the results become. Jenny, Jen, Jen, June, if you are here, preach it loud and clear. Lois, preach it. Rona, preach it. Pamela, preach it. I have a handful of women that I've worked with this year that have blown results out of the water. This year alone, I've had more shocking results, more massively transformational transformations than ever before. And so I'm not saying, ooh, look at me. I'm saying the information that I'm sharing with my clients is producing unbelievable results. And one of these days, I will become a little bolder and start to share some of these results from my clients a little bit more, but I'm still a little bit shy about that. That all being said, the reason I say this is because what I'm sharing with you today about intermittent fasting is one part research, one part personal experience, and one part what I'm seeing in my practice. And it works. And so if you take this information and you apply it, it could work for you, but it does require some trial and error unless you're working with a coach or you're working with someone who can help you navigate which approach is best for you. The reason I say all of this is because I'm coming upon the part of this conversation, which is, when is it problematic? Here is when I find intermittent fasting is problematic. If you are pretty close to your ideal body weight, and you might think, oh, I've got 5 pounds to lose. I'm so far from my ideal body weight. 5 pounds, 5 to 8 pounds away from where you want to be is goals. It's a win. You're now in the category of a winner and success. Even though to you it might feel like, but I've got 5 more pounds and they're so hard to lose. You're in a different category. If you're within 5 to 8 pounds of your ideal body weight or body composition, it's not a weight loss story. It's a body composition story. And so if you're within that 5 to 8 pounds, you've got to be careful with intermittent fasting, because that's when I find it's problematic, because you're going to get farther ahead by becoming an athlete and focusing on becoming anabolic. Tough workouts that you are building your lean muscle mass, you're going into the gym fueled, you are pushing your workouts, you're working hard, and you're fueling. You're becoming a machine. You're becoming an athlete. You're improving your lean muscle mass and you're reducing your body fat. That's not a weight loss story. And that is when intermittent fasting can be problematic. So if you're that person where you are crushing your workouts, you're going in and you're working hard, please be careful with intermittent fasting, because you might find you do better with only an 8-hour fast overnight. 8 hours is about all I can go overnight. So that means, 8 to maybe 10 hours. So if you're having dinner, this is going to be difficult on my brain, but if you're having dinner at 8 o'clock at night, that means you're eating breakfast by 6 a.m. So an 8-hour window, 8 to 10 hour, that's 10 hours, right? So a 8 to 10 hour window tends to be the max fasting overnight if you are someone who is really trying to up-level your athleticism. So intermittent fasting can be problematic. Intermittent fasting can also be problematic for you if you've got thyroid issues. Now that's tricky, because intermittent fasting can also be helpful if you have thyroid issues. So what I recommend first, if you've got thyroid issues, what I recommend first is that you get your blood sugar stabilized. And you do that through macronutrient balancing, eating every 3 to 4 hours, no intermittent fasting, and you get your blood sugar beautifully stable. Then you try some intermittent fasting. 12 hours, 13, 14, 15, 16. You ramp up over a period of time, slowly and gradually. That's if you have thyroid issues. Start by stabilizing your blood sugar. I personally believe that a substantial amount of thyroid issues can come from unstable blood sugar patterns. That's a risky thing for me to say. If you've got thyroid issues, I am not a doctor. I am not a thyroid expert, but I can speak on that from the research I've done and personal experience and just being in this game for 30 years. My personal opinion is if you've got thyroid issues, I believe that for a substantial number of people, it's actually not a thyroid problem. It's a blood sugar problem. You got to stabilize your blood sugar so your thyroid can go, okay, we don't have to keep on adjusting metabolism because my blood sugar is so unstable. That's what your thyroid does. Okay. Your thyroid controls your metabolism. And if your blood sugar is unstable, your thyroid is having to react. Okay. So if you've got thyroid issues, get your blood sugar stabilized first. It's another reason why I created the Nutrition Project. I mirrored the Nutrition Project after the program that I needed to resolve a lot of the health issues I had and all the problems that I had over the years that I see mirrored in my clients. Get your blood sugar stabilized, then try intermittent fasting if you've got thyroid issues, because I do believe that intermittent fasting can be helpful for thyroid issues. Intermittent fasting is also problematic around workouts. Don't you dare, if you're a woman over the age of 37, don't you dare get up in the morning, drink black coffee, and go work out. I know that your 23-year-old male trainer is telling you to do it. And I know that your 42-year-old male expert is telling you to do it. It's different for women. It is different for women. If you're a woman over the age of 37 and you are not happy with your results and you're getting up and you're drinking black coffee and working out on empty, it might not be working for you. Consider that strategy because that is when intermittent fasting is problematic. I don't think anyone should be going into a workout empty. You're going to get a better workout if you fuel your workout. And isn't the point of a workout to make you better? It's to build you. The point of a workout is to work out. The point of a workout is to work hard. The point of a workout is to go in and push it and perform. You can't do that if you're empty. So fuel your workouts. Do not intermittent fast your workouts. If you're a man, it's a different conversation. It can work. It works awesome for men. It really does. Guys, they've got that benefit of testosterone, right? And I'm not convinced it works for all men anyway. Okay. Last topic. Does intermittent fasting cause weight loss? Nah. Hell no. It doesn't. It doesn't. Intermittent fasting doesn't cause weight loss. Intermittent fasting can optimize metabolism and improve blood sugar regulation when done properly. Those things can lead to weight loss. Intermittent fasting can also cause a calorie restriction. Calorie restriction is really the only thing that causes weight loss. It's physics, it's mathematics, it's biology. Energy in, energy out. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So if you're taking in food in the form of energy, you're not destroying it. You're transforming it and transmuting it into energy that you then expend through your body. So the only way to lose weight is to be bringing in a little less energy than you're expending out, or to be expending more than you're taking in, right? Because if you're working hard and you're performing and your metabolism is high, you're going to burn hot all day long and you're going to be burning off energy. And so you need to fuel it to keep that fire burning hot. The only way to lose weight is through a net caloric deficit. And how you get there is the art and science of weight loss. But ultimately, you've just got to be burning off more than you're eating by a wee little bit. I like about 250 calories a day, maybe up to 500 calories a day. that is it. You do not want to be in more of a calorie deficit than 500 calories a day because you're going to have a lot of symptoms that you have to work through that are really uncomfortable. And that is it. So ultimately, I think you're probably going to walk away feeling like, oh, now I'm even more confused because Holly said intermittent fasting could be good or bad. But welcome to life and welcome to the human body because squats are not good for everyone. Raw broccoli is not good for everyone. Kale is not the panacea. And alcohol and coffee are not bad for everyone. So, and I also don't believe sugar is bad for everyone. There is no black and white when it comes to the human body. And it's all about how you are taking the information and applying it in your life. And it does depend on your unique personality, biology, and physiology. And so you have to take some time and experiment. What I can tell you is the human body does best when you gently introduce concepts over time and you experiment over time. So rather than going from eating however you want to a 3-day fast, quite extreme, right? I would encourage you to ease your way into that. If you want to explore intermittent fasting, start with a 12-hour fast. You could even start with a 10-hour fast. Then the next week, try an 11-hour fast. Then the next week, a 12-hour fast. Then the next week, a 13 or a 14, and gradually build yourself up to see and to ask yourself, is it actually helping me move closer to my goal? Because just because the headlines tell you it's good or so and so lost 100 pounds doing it doesn't mean that it's right for you. Questions and comments. Let me say hello to everyone. Irene, really excited for this topic. Yay, Irene, let me know if you enjoyed it and if you found it helpful. Cheryl's goal is fat loss. So now remember, fat loss is a little different than weight loss. Weight loss is you just want to see the scale go down. Fat loss is that you want to keep your muscle and take off the body fat, which in my opinion is the holy grail. And that's where your workouts become very important. And that's when it becomes important to increase your muscle mass and preserve that muscle mass and not go into a state of catabolism. So you want to be very careful with your intermittent fasting. Irene, losing weight and improving my blood glucose levels. So here too, what I would encourage you, Irene, is to accomplish that through stabilizing your blood sugar levels by eating every 3 to 4 hours, focusing on a slight calorie deficit that could help you achieve your goal. If it doesn't, then you explore intermittent fasting. You explore it as a last resort, not the first attempt. Heidi, my goal is to build an athletic physique, and I happen to know quite a bit about Heidi's physiology. And so Heidi is already very lean. Her body fat is low. She is a recreational athlete, and she works out hard. She trains heavy. And so for someone like Heidi, I generally, my gut would be like, intermittent fasting, not so sure, but let's try a 12-hour or let's try a 10-hour to see if it makes you feel better because it can. But again, you have to make sure that you're not fasting before a workout. Amy Losh. I was just thinking earlier today that so many different techniques and plans for achieving goals can sometimes cause more harm than good and cause a lot of confusion. They absolutely can cause a lot of confusion. And that is ultimately why I'm here every week for free, because I'm hoping to share my perspective on these topics to help alleviate some of that confusion. It's confusing though. It is. And you just have to follow one strategy for a period of time until you get feedback. Because the truth is, if you follow a proven strategy, a lot of times it can help. It can work. Rebecca, I'm trying to find help for bursitis in my hips. Strength training, my love. Strength training with really good technique is super, super important. Rebecca, you should check out my Strength Society workshops over on my website because that's exactly what I created those for, is to really help you improve your technique on the key strength training exercises to make sure you're doing them properly, because strength training will help improve joint integrity and alignment to take the pressure off those bursa. Carmen, excited to hear about IF. I have tried in the past and found it too restrictive. So that alone, Carmen, might be a reason why it's not ideal for you. If restriction doesn't work for you, intermittent fasting might not work simply because restriction doesn't work for you. And that's cool. I definitely don't feel that everybody needs to be doing intermittent fasting. Like I said, I feel like it's a last resort. It's not a first attempt. Facebook user, is that Elizabeth? Coffee might as well be illegal. You are right about the cortisol effects on the body. It's true. You got to be careful with caffeine because it pumps up your cortisol. Cortisol is catabolic. Cortisol throws your hormones off, destabilizes blood sugar, and gobbles up muscle mass. Caffeine and cortisol prior to a workout can be problematic. So grateful I gave up both coffee and alcohol. You're my idol. Facebook user, is that Elizabeth? Curious who that is. I think it might be Elizabeth. You're my idol. I need to give up both too. I just can't. I can, I will, but right now I'm enjoying them. And I'm paying the price, that's for sure. Irene, you guys, this is a great comment from Irene. I was only able to start losing weight once I gave up coffee. You guys, I've seen that a lot in my practice. The reason is caffeine. Coffee is harsh for some people. Caffeine. I've got an incredible knack for coming up with fabulous words. Caffeine bumps up, pushes up cortisol, blows out your adrenals, destabilizes blood sugar. Those things can prevent fat, prevent fat loss. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Elevated cortisol destabilizes blood sugar. These things prevent fat loss. So I've had a lot of clients begin to lose weight simply from giving up caffeine. Lois, I'm so glad you are here. Facebook user started 12/12 yesterday. I love it. Barbara started IF in March 16/8, sometimes 8/16 for 3 months with one cheat day a week. Did not lose much weight, which was the goal. Very physically active every day. I found my body. Ooh, let me remove Irene. Hold on one second, guys. Remove Irene and let me share Barbara, because this is a good one. I found my body adjusting to eating one giant meal a day before my window closed for the day, almost to compensate extra calories because it knew I was about to fast. My eating window was 8 to 4. It did improve my digestive issues. I do believe intermittent fasting can improve digestive issues. Absolutely. And again, it's like, why are you doing intermittent fasting? If you're doing it to improve digestive issues, it can be very helpful. And improving digestive issues could also be a function of changing the actual foods that you're eating, the food selection of what you're eating. And I think this is a great example of Barbara really following a specific strategy, a proven strategy, but it didn't lead to weight loss for her for whatever reason. It did improve digestive health. Carmen, how come you don't recommend doing it every day? Well, here's the thing. If I had a client who had a lot of weight to lose, like 50 pounds or more, I might have them intermittent fast every single day until we got them into that 25-pound window. Okay. The reason I don't recommend it is because it's restrictive and it's catabolic. So you are literally breaking down lean muscle mass when you fast. And so I just find it too catabolic for the majority of people. That being said, Carmen, if we were working one-on-one and I knew more about you, it's not that I don't recommend it. It's that as a general rule of thumb, very few people benefit from doing it every day, in my experience. Okay, guys, this is my experience. Anita Webb, oh my gosh, so glad you're here. Irene, do you think 1410 can work okay? I found 16:8 to be really difficult, but I can manage 1410. I just don't know if it's going to be helpful. Absolutely. Irene, listen, start with 1410 and then do that until you feel good about it. Then you could try 15:9. See how 15:9 feels. Then maybe you'll get to 16:8. Maybe not. Maybe 16:8 is too much for you. I don't know. You have to experiment. Carmen, love the Nutrition Project so far. I'm so happy. And Carmen, later on in upcoming weeks inside of the Nutrition Project, we will be talking about intermittent fasting. I will be introducing exactly how I teach it and a protocol that you can follow. You have the option to follow so we can determine if it's really ideal for you. Lois. Holly speaks the truth. She helped me to lose 40 pounds. Can you believe that? Can you believe you lost 40 pounds? So proud of you. So stinking proud of you. Heidi, Rebecca, Sammy. Okay, not you. Sammy's here. Sammy. Really helpful to think about whether what we are doing is anabolic or catabolic. That's such a useful idea. Yeah, because here's the deal. And for those of you guys that don't understand that, what anabolic means is that your body is in a state of growth, muscle building, positive energy, healing, if you will. Catabolic means your body's breaking down. It's breaking down muscle. It's breaking down body fat. It's breaking down stored fat, which can be helpful. Sure, absolutely. We just want to make sure that you're not in that breakdown of the fat. You're also not taking a breakdown of lean muscle mass, because the thing that you do want is as much lean muscle mass as possible, especially if you're a woman. I promise you, the more muscle mass you have, the better your life is going to be at any level of body fat. I'll say it again. The more, if you're a woman, the more muscle mass you have, the better your life is going to be at any level of body fat. And of course, if you're starting to fall into that 30 to 35% body fat, we have to be careful of cardiovascular disease. So ideally, you'll be below 30% body fat. But if your lean muscle mass is high and you're at 30% body fat, you're still going to be way healthier than if your muscle mass was down and you're at 30% body fat. Heidi, how many calories of a nighttime snack is okay to not cause the liver to clog up? Heidi, I would put it at about 200 calories that's easy to digest, little to no fat. Okay? Because fat slows the digestion through the liver. Heidi, no fructose. If we're specifically talking about liver detox overnight, little fat, no fructose. No alcohol, but I know you don't drink. For anyone else who's listening, no fructose, no alcohol. Then about 200 calories, because Heidi, you'll burn through that in about an hour to 2 hours. And so then you'll still have the rest of the hours of the night for your liver to detoxify. Fructose and alcohol are digested in the liver, whereas your other carbohydrates are not. And so if we want the liver to detoxify overnight, we want to avoid those at night. Some doctors even really recommend women avoid fruit altogether because of the fructose. And I don't necessarily ascribe to that, but if I suspect someone's having liver issues, I will definitely take them off fructose and alcohol, of course. Okay, guys, that's it. Boy, today was a long one. Thank you for being with me. This is an important topic. It was something I really wanted to talk at length about. I also wanted to make sure that I answered the questions for those of you guys that are here live with me. And if you're watching this in playback and you're still here, I love you. Come over to hollyperkins.com. If you get yourself on my email list, you're going to get updates. You're going to get more information that I don't necessarily share here. And I wanted to make sure that I answered a lot of these questions that come up. So this episode will ultimately eventually appear on my blog. And I'm here every Tuesday at 1 o'clock East Coast time on my Holly Perkins Fitness page on Facebook only. And then this gets aired over on my blog and YouTube. So I hope to see you next week. Until then, stay healthy, lift heavy, and I'll see you later.